Welcome back, audience. We're here for another episode of the Justus Podcast, and I'm here joined with Freds and Tobs26.
Greetings, human beings.
Hello, everybody.
UB Dog is currently busy at the moment, so I'm sure he'll be back to talk about the boys, which I know he's dying to mention in this series. But, without further ado, it's time we talk about a certain film that has gotten a lot of attention last year, one that has gotten memes, controversy, and without a doubt, hype. That movie is none other than Joaquer, starring Joaquin Phoenix and directed by Todd Phillips. So, what do you guys think about the Joker movie in general?
I thought you were talking about Venom. No, I'm kidding. What else can we say about the Joker? That movie was such a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Internationally, I mean, you could actually see people dressing up around the world in movements. It was like a social bomb as well.
You guys are lucky.
Yeah, you can see how far a character can go beyond the principle that is Batman. But Joker is like, I don't know, well, is equal to relevance to Batman.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You guys are lucky as hell because in the States, we got people that were paranoid as fuck over a movie. You got police officers that are trying to protect theaters. Some theaters banned the movie outright. And of course, the media was begging for that shit to happen, but more on that later. Let's just talk about what we like about the movie itself, shall we?
Of course.
Yeah, we're not going to forget about what the media said.
I watched it. But, I mean, the composition in that movie, the color, Joaquin, who is brilliant, always has been brilliant, and finally he gets like an hegemonic, character of sorts, and he just fucking, dude.
Yeah, he slays it. He slays the role of someone that's mentally deteriorating into a symbol, basically.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I've even seen people who has that illness, in some other videos, and it's identical. That they portrayed it exactly how it is.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Although some think that it's likely mocking those that have a mental disability, but in a way, I just don't buy it because it's mainly meant to show what happens when you mess with the wrong person, especially in the movie when one of the aspects of the film was where Arthur Fleck was upset that a comedian that he looked up to and thought of his dad, or perhaps I guess Bruce Wayne was his dad, whichever one of the two was his role model. He was upset that he was laughed at. Like, he was laughed at, not laughed with.
Mm-hmm.
It was especially shocking that he would actually go up to the show with Murray and basically pressure him into realizing that what he's done, despite Murray shrugging it off until he was shot.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the political comment it does, because it really doesn't let's say, go to any place, but at the same time, it has those connotations of the mischiefs, let's say, about the rich people and how they have an absolute power in lots of senses in society. They have a lot of impunity. They go over lots of victims. And I think nowadays we can easily access to look at any person who's a victim in this society. We have YouTube. I found thousands of people there who, they live in complete trash. So, seeing that, let's say, transformed into film, it's very interesting. And knowing that it is, depicted through the character of the Joker, as a symbol, it is also very attractive. So,
certainly takes a 180 to what we normally expect from the Joker on film. I mean, he's usually some sort of villain that Batman has to take down, but in this case, the Joker is not a villain, but instead someone who's lost everything, and he has nothing to lose at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tragic.
Yeah, I see, how this guy wants to do, well, in a way, the right thing, but life doesn't let him, doesn't let him do
No.
it. It's like he has to live
Nope.
with all that charge in his shoulders, and
Yeah.
at the end, when he just released the beast, as we said.
Pretty
Dude, the
much.
beast. We all have inside that beast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it
I
builds
agree
up
with
on
that.
you, and you try to like not let it go out because you want to try and at least keep your composure. You want to at least be a nice guy overall. But when people keep on stepping on
Yeah.
you and no
Yeah,
one is going to acknowledge that, and what are you going to do? You can't just like let them step on you. You got
yeah,
to like go up to them. Like
Yeah. You lose
yeah.
balance at one.
Yeah,
it's
everyone has a limit. I can resist many things, but there's a point that, okay, I can handle this. I can handle this, and I can, for example, if it's an extreme situation, I can handle it, and I can,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I can do, control myself if it's in a critical situation, not normal,
Yeah.
something like that.
right.
Is that it happens?
It happens a lot. I mean, and first example we can go with is Taxi Driver, which I mean, it
Yeah,
Oh
is.
yeah,
similar movie
I mean,
in some ways.
yeah, the Joker is a direct homage to it.
yeah,
That's like very obvious,
Yeah, without a
and
shadow of a doubt.
I don't think it's a valid critic to just trash the movie because it has a lot of similarities. I think it is an important story and closer to a more modern world.
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Well, I don't know.
So yeah, and also the score, the freaking score, which it's so deserved.
Wow.
Jesus, man. Like, the
Yes.
music
Yeah,
isn't some sort of generic shit we've seen in most comic book films where it sounds like they just took it from a
Yeah.
stock site. It feels different, or it sounds different, rather, and that's what I like about the score of the Joker movie. It's less recycled garbage that barely has any identity on its own and more unique attributes that give the Joker an identity. I especially love the transition
yeah.
from when the Joker was on the stairs dancing with a cigarette in
Yeah.
his mouth.
It fits the character.
Like it transitions from a music that was heard before with these strange instruments before it sounds or it turns into a much more depressing or traumatizing song.
The drums when he's about to shoot Murray,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that was
Like
so fucking intense. You were like, what the fuck is about to happen? And you kind of know, but at the same time, once you actually see it in the screen, it's like this
yeah.
time bomb. I adore in
Yeah.
movies when they use the element of a time bomb. It's
And
Yeah.
like what you see on the
oh,
screen is just as impacting as the music. Especially when he goes and he looks at Murray and says, "How about another joke, Murray?" And he says the lines like Murray's like trying to stop him, and he says, "I'll tell you what you get. You'll get what you fucking deserve." And bang, shoots him.
Yeah.
Everyone in the studio freaks out. It's
yeah.
like combine the music of the drums, the temper of the Joker, and Murray trying to shrug it off, and you get yourself a scene that you wouldn't see in like 1,000 years in a sort of movie like this.
hmm And let's be real here. Who doesn't want to see one of those dumb hosts in the television get shot sometimes?
I mean, we got that with Kermit in another TV
Well,
show, didn't we? Like,
Man, they can be so stupid.
yeah, like I remember in the I don't remember what the name of the show was, but I think it was like Jay Leno or something. But Kermit the Frog was in there. A dog shot him. The dog was named
No.
Ginger.
oh
He was
really?
like, "Ginger, no!" And he got shot.
Oh damn.
I
I
wish I could
really
teach
don't know
Lucas how to
about that.
shoot.
Yeah, the joke, and it still has its impact. Like, let's say, uh, I still hear people playing the song at times just because it's so iconic.
Yeah.
And the dialogue, I know some people don't like the dialogue of the movie, but it kind of fits the simplicity of the character at the same time of its complexity with how he falls down,
Yeah.
down.
But I will say that the most commonly used dialogue is from the scene where the Joker goes up and shoots Murray.
Yeah, that's the most reused.
Still, though, it's good
Yeah.
dialogue in a way, and certainly unique from what we usually expect from comic book films. And that's another thing. This doesn't feel like a comic book film. Between the setting, the way the actors are used in the film, and the fact that it's in a different time period than we expect, it feels more like a movie that you can make in that era, like the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it fits in there nicely with the 1980s without it trying to go for
Yeah.
the nostalgia.
Yeah, man, completely.
Like, I kind of get annoyed nowadays when movies try to use nostalgia as a way to entice someone to watch a movie from a specific time period. We all know Wonder Woman 1984 is going to have VHS tapes and all that sort of
Sure,
stuff.
yeah, they're gonna have like a lot of gags about it.
Like, assuming we're going to get the movie in some fashion, I'm sure it's going to be direct to video, but who cares? Like, Joker was more natural with its 80s inclusion.
Yeah, and it looks like everything looks like shit, and at the same time, it looks so beautiful.
Yeah, it seems like a weird description, but I can agree with you on that.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things, both from books and movies, when they can find a way to portray beauty in this scenario where everything is fucking the dumbfire of shit and all like it pure diarrhea as as raining from the clouds, you know, absolute shit. But somehow they find the beauty in that.
Closest thing to it would be Conker's Bad Fur Day and its remastered Conker Live and Reloaded.
The movie presents this dystopic city that it really feels very beautiful. You know, all the things that they use to to create that horrible city, but at the same time it looks very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same points
I
that
particularly
Tobs mentioned.
remember the lights. I love the lightning.
Yeah.
It worked quite well in the bathroom as well as the subway.
Oof, yeah.
Yes, both bathroom scenes. Yeah.
And also you can feel all the all the intentions with the color when, for example, they use different colors in the bathroom scene, in the streets, his
Yeah.
house, in the hospital, and many other places. And you can feel that pressure or that kind of the light that wants to go out, but it's inside. That he can show that this time, but it's there. You can see
Yes.
that, but he's trying to don't blow their mind.
Mhm.
Yep.
Dude, the green is also so sickening to see, and at the same time,
Yeah.
But it's
wow.
still nice. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's honestly reminiscent of how, again, bringing back another Conker comparison, the Great Mighty Pooh is this disgusting thing, but it's still kind of glorious in a way.
Yeah, glory. That's actually great word to describe it, because at times background is so blurry, but at the same time it feels like a painting.
It does.
Yeah, kind of that.
Like, Joker, as we mentioned, just feels like a movie that belonged in a specific time period, but without all the nostalgia bullshit, and just mostly focuses on being a damn good movie.
Finally, right?
Yep.
So hard to get these characters into some realistic terms. I don't know why it is so underused.
Yeah.
So much potential.
Like, in some ways, it might come off as sort of because it will lead to this sort of jokes where we get a depressed version of a character, like a depressed Elmo, or a drug addict Barney, or Batman that's likely to deal with the hood or something like that. But that's because that's all that they can think of, whereas the Joker at least has more going on as a film.
Mm-hmm.
All the other examples I mentioned are just people that can't think of something new, and that's what they think is funny, when in reality it's limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully Todd Phillips gets another chance with another character. I want to see Mr. Freeze get his...
That'd be
Yeah, it
pretty
would be
good,
a good
honestly.
idea.
Especially after 1997's Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love you, Arnie, but Mr. Freeze was cringy as shit.
What
Not
killed
again,
the
not again.
dinosaurs?
The Ice Age! The Iceman cometh. I hate it when people talk during the movie.
Yeah.
But hey,
Arnold was perfect.
he had the
Perfect
most amount
casting.
of fun with the
Perfect.
movie compared to everyone else. Like, George Clooney fucking hated the thing. Speaking of Todd Phillips and another film, do you guys think this should have a sequel?
That's the
Mm,
big question.
I don't know. I can relate with Joaquin quite a lot as a person with his personality, you know, his environment. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he will come back, to be honest.
In my opinion, I wouldn't like that because you know what one thing that make well in my opinion that movie beautiful is things that the movie left at the end of the story. You know, all that questions, all that things that
Yeah.
okay, what's going to happen? It's like okay, I'm happy with those things, but I don't want to know that. It's like that's the magic thing. That's the magic thing of a movie. I don't want to know, you know, that what happened next if, you know, some journalism, you know, have the Rorschach journal, the Rorschach
Yes.
journal. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, that,
Don't
you know,
try to pronounce it. It's impossible. Rorschach.
Rorschach is kind of difficult,
Yeah,
but,
it is. Rorschach.
but you know what I mean. Rorschach. Rorschach.
Alright, let's
But
move on
let's
before this turns
ask
into...
Alan Moore. He will know.
And then he's gonna,
yeah.
kick us out of his house and say, "Get off my lawn, you fucks!" Moving
That's
on.
Alan Moore.
It's like, moving on. Too long, didn't read. You're unsure if it would be a good idea.
No,
Yeah, but you know what I
agree.
mean.
I agree with Fred.
From my perspective, sure, it'd be cool to see Joaquin return, but it would sort of take away from the experience of the Joker just being a movie about him, since it's going to turn into another Batman film with the Batman being involved. Unless it could be from his point of view,
Oh.
but even then, just be one and done with this film. Though I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Reeves wants to put him in his Batman movie. So we can have a Joker from the 80s face off against a Batman that looks like an emo from the 2000s.
Wasn't it more like the mid part of the 90s? This Batman?
I think
Yeah, I
so, but
think-
I think emos were more common in the 2000s.
Yeah,
true.
2000.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can't wait for the scene in Batman 2 where he tells the Joker, "It's not a face, Joker." I don't think we need a Joker sequel, but I do miss when we can laugh at the media for being a bunch of pussies with a movie like that.
Yeah.
You lived it. You experienced it
Yeah.
better.
Unfortunately, you guys got to enjoy people dressing up, skateboarding, or dancing on stairs, whereas I had to see people in the stateside freak out over the damn movie. Like I said earlier,
Mhm.
people called the police to guard the place. They were also going against the film for the comments of white incels and all that sort of garbage. And they also were the same sort of people that say, "Oh, we can have DC be anything as long as it's not Zack Snyder, as long as it's not this Joker movie, because it's too depressing for my 5-year-old mind." But it was cool that New York City at least had the stairs. So if I ever wanted to go to New York City, some of the things I do were to check out the pizza place that was in Spider-Man 2. And I also check out this Joker stairs, which are an actual landmark now. People have taken photos over there.
Yeah. How was the pizza though?
I never tried it. I would love to, though.
Yeah.
Maybe next.
Yeah, next
I
time.
mean,
Next time will be pizza time.
I can get though the repercussion it had the character of the Joker because of this massacre happened, in Aurora. I think.
Oh yeah, that's understandable.
Only from that part it's understandable.
Everything else is just stupid, premature whininess that the journals displayed.
Yeah.
It did suck that Aurora had the experience of someone shooting up the theater during the dark, or I think it was a Dark Knight Rises, or was it another film?
Yeah, it was Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was that.
That was super upsetting. because those are innocent people that were taken away by a psycho.
Yeah.
A complete psycho. The guy, I remember the guy was saying like, "Hey, I am the joke."
Oh yeah, and we also have
But
stuff like people, like the court trying to go after someone, and people are trying to prove that this guy that dressed up like a clown called himself the Joker or not. But I think he was unrelated to the person that shot up a theater in Aurora.
it was unrelated. Okay,
Yeah. So
misinformation
yeah,
covered.
misinformation to try and make a film look bad more so than it already was,
Yeah.
just because it's not from a brand they like or because it's way too violent. Like,
Mhm.
of course, this isn't a movie that I'd recommend your kids to watch, but come on, son.
Dude,
Grow some balls.
I saw parents bringing their children. It's creepy.
Really?
Like, don't. Yeah, I actually saw it.
Like,
But it wasn't as much as with Deadpool. Do you remember that?
yeah.
But yeah, I still saw parents bring their children. I mean, how can you be so irresponsible?
Like, at least with
Yeah, it's
Deadpool, it
like
made sense because there is a bit of appeal that kids might have. He's a Marvel character. He's got humor. He's lighthearted. Whereas Joker, this movie at least picks him as more of a psycho than anything else we've seen from Batman media.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But still, despite the weird shit we've experienced, on the 1 year anniversary of the Joker movie, I'm happy to revisit it and take a look at what its society
course.
had to offer, because it was certainly a movie that helped Warner Brothers immensely by realizing that, hey, there's might be a chance we might like have people like this film, because let's be real here, none of the other films from Warner Brothers got that much attention. I mean, sure, there's
Nope.
someone that loved Detective Pikachu. I know there's certain fans out there that love Shazam, but like Joker feels like the movie that I'd like to see quite a bit because it's unique and it has more going on.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Shazam just feels like something
Yeah.
to watch while you're doing something else.
Admit it or not, the Joker was the big winner of last. Even I think it won over Endgame because given the low budget it had and also how popular it became.
There's also the fact that
Man.
Endgame had way more merchandise to work with
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah.
Joker, which it needed no merchandise aside from the home video stuff.
So yep, that's Joker.
A great
Yes, sir.
movie, and likely only needs one installment because having a sequel just probably turned it into a Batman film.
Yeah, that's life.
Next up, we'll be talking about Power Rangers Beast Morphers, the latest season from this
Ooh.
franchise itself, and it's also the first under a new company, that being Hasbro, which, if you're under the rocks, have taken over the Power Rangers franchise since 2018. Now, I'm sure you guys haven't been aware of that sort of stuff, but let me go through it quickly. In early 2018, Saban and Bandai were saying that they're splitting up, and now Hasbro is the master toy licensee of Power Rangers. Go Busters, Tokime Sentai Go Busters, was adapted into Beast Morphers. That's why we got the unique suits, because Go Busters was spy themed as well as mechanical beast themed, which is pretty much also brought over in Beast Morphers, except it's more about the animal stuff instead of the spy stuff, but still good. Then Hasbro bought the entire franchise as well as most of Saban Brand's assets in mid 2018. Saban Brands closed down months later, and now we have Hasbro doing everything. It used to be Saban with the TV show and Bandai with the toys. Now Hasbro's doing both the toys and the show itself. If you told me years ago that a company named Hasbro would become the new owner of Power Rangers, I would have never believed you, because they got
Me neither, man.
They got stuff like Transformers. They got stuff like G.I. Joes. Of course, My Little Pony, because I know there are fans out there that love MLP. And they have other stuff like Star Wars and Marvel, which they don't outright own, but they are the main master licenses. The Power Rangers was a Bandai thing, and it felt weird to imagine it, but now it makes sense, as we already saw what they made.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm sure that there might be people that would like to hear what we think of other seasons, but I think Beast Morphers is a good way to start. Let's begin with Beast Morphers in terms of its story. Earth has
Yeah.
been in peace for several years. Scientists have tapped into the morphing grid, harnessing its power to create more effects. Additionally, they've also made a new set of powers to help protect the morphing grid, which came in use now that a virus named Venjix popped up. Did I just say Venjix?
Benjix.
We're going to talk about that in a bit. Anyways, I'm sorry. A virus named Evox popped up, and the Rangers must protect the morphing grid from the manifestation itself. But the manifestation named Evox took away two allies in the form of Blaze and Roxy, the intended Red and Yellow Rangers. They are now cybervillains, with Devin, a guy that loves to play video games and impress his dad, who's also the mayor of the setting of the show, becomes a new Red Ranger, and Zoe, who is a laundry girl, becomes a new Yellow Ranger. They take on Blaze, they take on Roxy, as well as the Tronics, while Evox tries to find a way to get himself a body so he can tap into the real world and away from the cyber dimension.
Okay, that's a good summary.
However, things get a bit
Yeah.
of a new turn when its scientist character, who's been around since episode 1, named Nate, wants to go outside more often. So he scans some DNA from a mantis. I should mention, Red Ranger has
Oh.
cheetah DNA, Blue Ranger has gorilla DNA, Yellow Ranger has rabbit DNA.
Oh.
The fuck?
Yeah, that's part of the powers of the show because, like I said, their mechanical beasts are the theme. So it makes sense that they'd have
Yeah.
technology and animals be combined instead of one or the other, which is
Yeah.
cool. So Nate takes Mantis DNA, and he's also building a robot ally in the form of Steel, who comes to life when he taps into the morphing grid after taking away Evox from Steel's body. And thus, Nate becomes the Gold Ranger, while Steel activates and becomes the Silver Ranger.
Ooh. Okay.
Along the way, they get new Zords, some additional weapons. We get to the end where the cybervillain Roxy, who's an avatar, by the way, I mean, both her and Blaze are avatars. Not like from the TV show from Nick, nor the Fox movies, but they're virtual characters that tap into the real world because they at least have a human form that they copied, with the real human forms being in a coma. Roxy gets taken down, and before the mid-season finale, Blaze, however, gets taken down in the Megazord fight after an event occurred where he kidnaps Devin, the Red Ranger, and Devin is sent to the cyber dimension. The mayor and the Rangers decide to help out and rescue Devin. However, that leads to Evox's humanoid form getting taken down, and the cyber dimension is destroyed. However, the mid-season finale ends with a glowing hand on the mayor, which turns out to be the fact that Evox has possessed the mayor, almost like a disease of some kind, sort of like in Dino Thunder, which, as we find out later, the villain is disguising himself as the father of one of the Rangers. I know, right?
Chun, chun, chun.
Season 2 continues off with not much that has been changed. I mean, we get some sort of filler bits, but we do at least get to see the Beast X mode, which consists of the Beast Bots, who I should mention are helpers of the Rangers. We have Cruz, who turns into a motorcycle for the Red Rangers, who is a Transformer. We have Smash, who is a big bruiser bot, also resembles a gorilla. And we have Jax, who's sort of like R2D2, but all three can talk, no problem. Steel is also a Beast bot, but he's also a Ranger. So he's like 2-in-1, best of both worlds. But the main three I mentioned
Oh.
were used for Beast X mode, which is a power-up that the Rangers use to go up against villains when the battle gets tougher. There was a prototype of it called Red Fury mode, which is only for the Red Ranger. That is an American exclusive creation, while Beast X mode originated from the Japanese Go Buster source material. After the Rangers save Cruz, using new Morphex keys for the Beast X mode, the Beast Bots can now become armor of some sorts. First, they get sucked into the keys. Then they combine with the Morpher as well as the Visor, the Beast X Visor, and their essence is used for the Beast X mode armor, which is essentially like chromish sort of chest armor as well as new bands for the arms and legs. It's not bad. The Red Fury mode is more unique in a way. We get the Beast X Kingzord, which has yet to be released as a toy for Hasbro stuff. And
Hmm.
the Rangers find it, they rescue it after it was taken away by Evox, who used it for evil. And we get to see Robo Blaze and Robo Roxy, who are new evil versions of Blaze and Roxy, except whereas Robo Blaze is based on the original Enter suit, which looked more like a sort of like a knight, I guess, whereas the regular Blaze was more like a ranger. If you've seen photos, you know what I mean. However, Roxy went from being yellow to being purple, although Escape, the Japanese counterpart to Roxy, was always purple in Go Busters. We get to see more fillery stuff for part of the early half of season 2-ish. Then we get to return to the rest of the season, and we not only have Evox separated from Devin's dad, but we also get to see a character in the form of Ryjack showing up on Earth, while a metal hero who is called Gavin in Japan shows up as Jakku in the US. And it's one of the rare instances where a metal hero shows up in Power Rangers, although he doesn't have his own show, he's just there for the episode. Ryjack gets taken down, Jakku becomes more human after he revealed himself to be a cyborg, then he leaves the planet Earth to be with his family. However, the case stolen by Ryjack turns out to be a box full of weapons used for the villains, which leads into the Dino team up where Evox, Scrozzle, who I forgot to mention is one of the villains of the season, along with the likes of Roboblaze and Roboroxy, all try to revive old villains. They revive the Dino Charge villains who died previously in, I believe, Super Ninja Steel or Dino Superchargers finale. The Dino Charge Rangers come to look for Keeper, their mentor. Well, that happens. The villains revive Sledge as well, who first says, "It's a bomb!" And yeah, it's mostly Dino Charge villains that get revived. Meanwhile, the Dino Charge Rangers take on a villain who is known as Snide, who resembles Zeltrax from Dino Thunder, though we'll get to that in a bit. Dino Charge Rangers and Beast Morpher Rangers team up, although the only Rangers we get to see from Dino Charge that can be seen unmorphed are Red Ranger Tyler, Blue Ranger Coda, Black Ranger Chase, and Gold Ranger Ivan. Green Ranger Riley and Pink Ranger Shelby remain morphed the entire time, and there is no sign of Aqua, Graphite, Silver, or Purple in this crossover, but honestly that's okay with me because it's way too many Dino Charge Rangers. The Beast Morpher team takes care of what they were needed for. The Dino Charge Rangers rescue Keeper, although they need to get their staff back, and weirdly they leave the main universe because the Dino Charge season takes place in another universe. But in the meantime...
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, okay,
Yeah, that's crazy.
there's a main TV show universe, which consists of Mighty Morphin to Jungle Fury. You skip RPM, we go to Samurai and do Mega Force, and we skip Dino Charge and we go to Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers. In the other universe is RPM, which makes sense because, originally we thought it was going to be in the same universe as the rest of the series, but no. The post-apocalyptic theme has been retconned for its own universe, and Dino Charge is in its own universe too, which, by the way, has living dinosaurs because they fucked up the past.
What the hell? That's so crazy.
Yeah, which makes sense. Plus, it'd be better if it was a multiverse than if Dino Charge is ending, retconned Mighty Morphin and Dino Thunder out of the canon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because,
I would feel bad about that.
yeah, like, if the dinosaurs were still alive, then that would mean Mighty Morphin can't happen, and neither could Dino Thunder. Thankfully, that's not the case. But back to the Beast Morphers. The villains look for another villain that they can revive. They choose the likes of Lord Zed, as well as Red Psycho Ranger, Astronema, and Korag before choosing Goldar. And I must say that This is one of the weird cases where they use old footage, yet they can't use the actual audio that was used in the show. If you've seen the show before, like Lord Zed has a deep voice in the actual show, whereas in Beast Morphers episode Making Bad, where they make the villains, or they choose who to make the villain out of, Lord Zed sounds a bit raspy. He sounds sort of weird. I'm thinking
Hmm.
of another example of a character that doesn't sound right. Astronema sounded younger than she was in the actual season of In Space. I think Korak sounded the most natural, but even then they added some new dialogue that was not in the actual episode of Mystic Force. Red Psycho Ranger was mostly similar, but it's weird. And of course, Dawson Writer, I don't know if he's watching this or not, makes fun of how Andros, the Red Space Ranger, sounded in the Astronema segment, where he's all like, "I'm gonna save you, Corone."
So it's like mistakes continuity.
Well, it doesn't really mess up continuity per se, but it is weird if you've seen the show before and you realize that those aren't how they sounded before.
Okay.
Of course, they choose Goldar, and Goldar returns. Of course, he can because of the Japanese footage. And he's got a brand new form. Gone are the days where he was a monster that looked like he had a monkey suit, and now he's got a less expressive face on him, which is a bit of a downgrade, but at least his armor is a lot more messed up in comparison.
Hmm.
Still, though, beats that 2017 movie Goldar who looked like melted cheese.
Okay, so there are variations.
Well, like
Yeah.
Goldar was only had like 3
Still the
variations.
same essence, but
Yeah,
some changes.
like okay, in Japan, the Japanese versions of Goldar and Zeltrax were Neo versions. They were revived after what happened to them in the past, and they're much more stylized, I guess. Whereas in the PR universe, Goldar was the only one that was revived, whereas Zeltrax and the other character, Snide, had nothing in common with each other aside from similar looks. Zeltrax had a deeper voice, whereas Snide had a more nasal voice. Slash gets taken down by the new Goldar, and now we have Evox, Blaze, Roxy, Scrozzle, as well as Goldar and Snide, and they're going to take on their army against the Rangers. They take on the Dino Charge Rangers and the Beast Morphers Rangers, except for Devin, who pretty much wants to stay in the main universe and play video games. However, Keeper warns him that something bad is going to happen to the team, and he just shrugs it off, even though that seems weird. I mean, Devin has already been a Ranger for so long. Why would he ignore the morphing grid? So then the Rangers and the Dino Charge universe get their asses kicked. The main 4 Dino Charge universe Rangers that actually have actors involved, they get their Energems taken away, while Green and Pink remain unfazed. The Beast Morpher Rangers, Blue, Yellow, Gold, and Silver, get their morphers damaged. Devin, meanwhile, gets hit by a meteorite, or nearly gets hit. He brings it to the base at Grid Battle Force, and he starts wondering what it could be. So he goes to the morphing grid and asks who can help him out, and it turns out to be a coin inside, but not just any coin, a power coin with a Tyrannosaurus symbol on it, and Jason shows up. Yes, the original Jason.
Okay.
Yeah. He was last seen in person in the show back in 2002's Wild Force, which makes it around 18 years since he last appeared in the show. Less than Tommy Oliver, if you ask me.
Whoa.
And like, he's not the same sort of guy that we saw back in the 90s or in 2002. Austin St. John's a little chubbier now than he was in the past. No offense to him.
Oh.
He also sounds a lot more serious in a way. Like, he sounds more adult than he was in the past. It sounds weird at first, but then again, we haven't seen much of Austin St. John in the show, more so than in real life. It was a cool experience, honestly. Although the actual fight itself was just Sentai footage, but it was cool to see Jason return, and we've got to hear him say new stuff instead of having to just stick with recycling old lines from fan videos.
Great. Yeah.
So Jason and Devin show up at a Dino Charge universe. They help out the team. The Beast Morpher Rangers look for Evox in hopes of stopping the Chimera Zord from being made. Jason and the Dino Charge Rangers look for Goldar's army. And when Goldar threatens to take down the Dino Charge Rangers and Jason says, "Oh, that's not an army." Brings out his coin, and it summons the rest of the Mighty Morphin team. Black,
Cool.
blue, yellow, and pink, and the main 3 Dino Thunder Rangers, who, sadly, none of them get to be seen morphing. They just show up in their costumes. So that means no Connor, no Ethan, no Kira, in terms of their actors. No Zach, no Kimberly, no Billy, no Trini, although Tui Thing passed away years ago, so that's impossible. Still, though, it would have been cool to at least have Connor being morphed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they show up. Jason says that this is an army. Sort of ripping off Avengers Endgame, but honestly, many people have already mentioned that. The 4 Dino Charge Rangers morph to join alongside the rest of their team, green and pink. Then Jason morphs, the classic Tyrannosaurus, after saying it's morphin' time, and he's in the Red Ranger suit. Of course, a lot skinnier than he actually is, but it works.
It works.
The team takes on Goldar's army. We get stock footage from the Sentai source material, Kyurager vs. Skullbusters, but it's quite good in a way. Although I do miss when we used to have actual interactions between the Rangers. I mean, I remember back in Wild Force when Jason was in it along with Cole, the Red Wild Force Ranger. He was like calling him a noob, saying, "Let me show you how it's done." And here's just characters that are taking on villains, and they just say like one-liners in a way, like it's about to get wild, or they just say their power-up attacks. Dino Thunder at least had some lines, but it's mostly just Tyranno, Tricera, Terra, C-Rex Blaster, Fire.
I remember that.
Yeah, but like they don't use the actual actors, and Connor sounds nothing like the actual actor that played Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like at the end, well, I'm cutting up a bit, but at the end he says, "I don't think you've seen the last of him," and well, Reefside awaits. Whereas he'd more normally sound like, "I think it's best we help you out," or "You guys ready?"
Yeah.
But
Much more enthusiastic.
yeah, much more natural too. Whereas the new guy just sounds weird. The villains get taken down. Snyder gets taken down by Dino Thunder. Goldar gets taken down by Mighty Morphin. Dino Charge takes down all the villains. The Vivix, the Triptoids, the Putties, the Tronics. Red Ranger Devon takes down Roboblaze, who reports back to Evox instead of helping out the fight. The rest of the Rangers are injured, or the Beast Morpher ones rather, but Devon's okay because he hasn't gotten too much of an issue fighting since he didn't want to help in the first place. But he makes up for it because in the Megazord fight, the Chimerazord is unleashed by Evox, and the Mighty Morphin, Dino Thunder, and Dino Charge Megazords all come together to fight against the Chimerazord itself. And it's all CGI, yeah, but still pretty cool because we don't really get Megazords returning that often. When was the last time we got something like that? Exactly. Although you can say that Samurai at least had the RPM Zords together, but that was mainly because it was just from a opening segment where Scott, the RPM Red Ranger, was going up against Cog, and we'll talk about Samurai in another episode, but yeah, it was cool to see the 3 Dino-themed Megazords come together and fight against the Chimerazord. We even get the Terra Charge Megazord show up and aid the other Zords. It was pretty good stuff. Although we'll say that the cockpit footage that they used was all stock footage. In Japan, the Rangers, our versions, or their versions of Mighty Morphin, and the Abba Rangers, their versions of Dino Thunder, had like white backdrops as their cockpits, whereas here we just use old footage. Although they all made it into a collage because Mighty Morphin and Dino Thunder are 4:3 and standard definition, whereas Dino Charge is 16:9 high definition.
Okay.
Yeah, they struggle a bit, but then Devon shows up with the Beast X King Zord, and he combines with the Dino Charge Megazord, not necessarily as a new formation, but rather the Zord's head just comes off, and it becomes a shield for the Dino Charge Megazord. The 2 other Megazords show up. They all put their hands on the shoulders of the Dino Charge Megazord, and they blast at the Chimera Zord, and it loses. Fire's eliminated. The Rangers come together and say their goodbyes, which was both nice, although very disappointing to hear Connor say, well, we've decided waits without him sounding like Connor would. We go back to the standard episodes we normally get. We get to see stuff like Roboroxy losing against the Rangers after her new form shows up. We also have Blaze attempting to say that they can try and capture Evox in a specific way, although it turns out to be a trap, as the real Blaze was nowhere to be seen, whereas the other Blaze was just an evil version. And they find it weird at first that Evox would be captured by bringing him into the base, but that's actually part of the plan, where Blaze brings an Evox so that Evox can hack into the computers of the Morphin Grid. After getting injured or shot repeatedly, he becomes a bit of data that goes to computers. The Rangers try to stop him. He then goes into the Ranger Vault, which, by the way, has a lot of old Power Ranger tech. He grabs the suitcase from RPM and grabs one of the cell shift morphers. He sucks up the data from it, and he reveals to the Rangers that he's Venjix, the villain from RPM.
Like, I am Ben?
Yeah, he says stuff like, he's trying to put it together now. A cell shift morpher could only mean one thing. I was Venjix. I've had many forms, but now my victory is certain. Like that. Like his voice changed.
Dad.
And
Yeah.
like RPM's Venjix villain was a tough bastard to fight against because he kept on getting new forms and he'd always find a way to make the Rangers struggle. So now he's back. He's got a new physical form. He brings in some old Robotrons to distract the Rangers while he looked for Morphin Grid towers to suck up the energy from. The Rangers get to take down Roboblaze, no problem, but then they struggle with the likes of Evox, making their... I feel that it at least works well for the fact that the Rangers had to think outside of the box when it came to stopping Evox, since their weapons are now useless, Grid Battleforce weapons. So they used past Ranger weapons, one from SPD, one from Super Ninja Steel, one from RPM, Lightspeed Rescue, and one from Dino Charge, which is kind of weird because Dino Charge just teamed up with him. But yeah, they were able to go up against him at first, but then they struggled with injecting the antivirus into Venjix's body. He just swats it away like a boss. Although he did struggle a bit in his fight against Steel, the Silver Ranger, but he kills Steel, and Steel just becomes one with the Morphin Grid. The other Rangers are lost. Nate gets upset about the fact that his brother got killed in the fight against Evil, and the Rangers just come together and tell the rest of Grid Battle Force that one of their kind has been taken down in battle, but they're still willing to go up against Venjix now that he's getting a new form and he's starting to take away all the energy of the Morphin Grid. We get a touching scene where everyone comes together and says that they're going to help him out, with the rest of Grid Battle Force, I believe, saying that they're going to help others evacuate from the city. The Rangers are going to take on Venjix himself. So we get to Venjix, who's got himself a brand new form. He towers over everything, including the Ultra Zord. The Rangers struggle to take him down, but then Nate realizes that he can try to at least use a different combination, taking away the powers of the Gold and Silver Zords, while also using their human DNA to stop Venjix, because human DNA is what kept him from getting into Steel's body in the earlier episodes. It is also why he struggled to survive when he was with the body of Devin's father, Mayor Daniels. It sounds a bit weird when they say human DNA because you might have a dirty mind, but like it makes sense because he's a machine and he can't really accept human DNA or things that have human DNA. Steel, despite being a robot, has human DNA. So the Rangers stab Venjix's body, use all the human DNA that they have, and he's done for, once and for all.
Okay.
The Rangers come together. They realize that Steel has been revived, except now he's a human instead of a robot. And it's not just for one day, because, I should mention this, he wanted to be human. He and Nate switched bodies to experience it, and now he's got his own human body. It's a very touching moment. It's certainly the new version of Pinocchio in a way, And while it was weird that Steel, despite having a human body, sort of sounds like how he did as a robot, it was still very touching that he gets to be a human brother to go along with Nate, who's already human to begin with. 1 year later, Skrull gets arrested by Ben and Betty, who I forgot to mention, but more than later. We get to see stuff like the other Rangers enjoying their lives outside of the Greater Battle Force initiative. Morphex has been replaced for the more renewable energy, and Steel is a movie star. They come together, all the Rangers and the Allies, for Steel's 1 birthday. Because he becomes a year old, even though he's not really a baby per se. He was recently made last year. They all celebrate his birthday, and it was a very touching moment in a way. Like, nothing all that special. Like, it's not like a huge epic finale, but it was at least nice to see Steel be happy with what he wanted. And that concludes Beast Morphers' story, which was quite a bit to say, wasn't it?
It was indeed. it had a lot more of substance than I.
Yeah. Like, Beast Morphers is not as perfect as something like Dino Thunder or RPM or In Space, but I do appreciate the fact that a lot more goes on than just the new toy that they want to sell. We get to see. However, there were some fillers episodes I wasn't a big fan of. Like, the episode where Nate's parents show up was nice, but wasn't anything all that special, to be honest. It just felt like something that you would probably watch if you wanted to see the entire series, but it didn't really add anything. Though I will credit it for at least having something in the background. The first half of the so-called Season 2, however, had more filler episodes, with the only important ones being when they found out that Evox was back, until they realized it was Skrull, and the introductions of the B-Sex mode and the B-Sex King Zords were important, whereas every the other episodes before the hiatus took place were just flat. Not terribly flat like most of the Neo Saban era, mind you, but still nowhere near as engaging as the other episodes, for that matter.
So those are more filler.
Yeah,
there's no plot.
Sometimes,
running.
Yeah, like sometimes there's filler episodes with not much plot going on, although thankfully the rest of Season 2 continues to have more story, even if it's just the Dino team up, the involvement of Chaku and Ryjack, and what happens at the finale.
Which is still not known, right?
What do you mean?
It hasn't released, right?
Well,
yeah,
it was released internationally, but not in the US. And let's be honest, most of the fans already saw the international airings.
Oh, they had?
Yep.
Okay.
So, I think that's one of the cons I mentioned about the filler stuff, but let's talk about the other cons for a bit. I was not a fan of the moral of the day aspect. The moral of the day aspect of Power Rangers just kind of gets annoying, honestly, because, like, do you really need to be told about behaving good or trying not to be a screw-up constantly?
No.
Like, the way some of the morals were handled, like when the Rangers tell the girl that was involved with a video game tournament to not cheat, like, that was okay. Because, honestly, like, I know we all like to cheat sometimes to go past a game, but doing it in a immoral way for the tournament just seems a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do understand by the fact that she wants to at least try and get some money for, I believe it was her brother. We also got some weird stuff too, like with how Zoe, I believe, was involved with some sort of mission, and it sort of made it seem like they were telling the audience to not leave the other partners behind because she tried to get into a mission that was dangerous. It involved a fossil of a dinosaur. Wasn't a bad episode, but the moral just certainly felt a little on the nose, if you ask me.
Yeah, so those episodes that are more didactic, say, centered on that, those are lackluster or lacking a good way to presenting the message, values.
Yeah, the message or the values or whatever, just like they don't have to be obvious. I get that they want to try and talk it down to kids, but honestly, I'd rather they try to be a bit more organic with their morals.
Yeah.
Thankfully, in one of the episodes where a kid was made fun of for having a big tuba, when he was told by the Rangers that it's okay to be like to have to enjoy the tuba. Like they didn't like say, "Oh, don't worry about them." Like just try to talk about it with them about why you like it. They just outright told him that he can learn karate too. And like normally saying that you gotta like try and talk to your bully about why bullying is bad is something that I would expect from them, but they actually showed the kid like defending himself from the bullies when they try to take away his tuba, which I believe happened in the episode, but still, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he wasn't beating him up in the episode itself. He was just trying to avoid their attacks and get them injured in the process.
So the little kid has a tuba, and the message is train and kick someone's ass.
Sort of. The main lesson of the show, obviously, is to not be ashamed of what your secrets are. Although you can say that
Yeah.
practicing karate isn't a bad idea as well.
No, of course isn't. I mean, any martial art is super cool.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Another aspect of Beast Morphers I don't quite like is how some episodes sort of write a character differently than they normally are. I already mentioned with Devin how the way he was written for Grid Connection, where the Dino team up occurs, where he just says he wants to focus on video games and shrug off the Morphin Grid. That was weird because, like, why would you want your main Red Ranger to ignore the Morphin Grid just because he wants to focus on video games? I'd rather it be where he wants to focus on his dad, see how he's doing, but they keep on telling him, hey, like, he's okay. You don't have to worry about the fact that Evox is within him. He just says, no, I just want to check on him. Is that okay? And he just walks away from them. But video games are more important, probably because they want to try and bring up the lesson of saying that sometimes Avengers are better than video games. Because at the end of the episode, he outright tells Keeper that this adventure was better than any video game he's ever had. Which,
okay.
Yeah. So that's another aspect, though. I guess another example would be how Drilltron is a villain that's involved, and it somehow relates to phobias because the Blue Ranger Ravi tries to brush his teeth regularly and avoids a dentist because he had a childhood memory of the dentist creeping him out. That was weird because, like, do we really need to give a shit about him having an episode devoted to his fear of a dentist? Like, I get it. Us as kids don't like dentists much when we were younger, and in some ways I kind of have the mindset of thinking, oh, great, I gotta go to a dentist sometimes, because I know for a fact that it stings when they try to handle your teeth.
Yeah, it really stings.
But like the way it was written in the episode just seems a little weird. We go from stuff like the inclusion of the Gold and Silver Rangers and the fact that the Rangers are trying to look for a good leader to the Blue Ranger having a fear of the dentist, which not the best episode in my opinion. So
like maybe they try to round things.
Yeah, which isn't a bad thing.
At the same time, they make it ridiculous.
That's not a bad thing, but honestly, I'd rather they try and do it another way. Like, the Blue Ranger Ravi is a good character, and I respect the fact that he's devoted to getting his girlfriend back after she was pretty much had her soul taken away and as it became a cyber villain. But so that one episode was just like a bro moment, and I think there's pretty much some other stuff that might be nitpicky or worth mentioning in terms of the cons of Beast Morphers, which I feel would include Ben and Betty. These two characters are like the bulk and skull of the new season of Power Rangers, as I mentioned, which isn't a bad thing, but honestly, the way they're presented just means that they sometimes either act competent in wanting to help out the Rangers, or they just act goofy. And their humor is still the same sort of pie-to-face gag, falling on their face sort of humor, which needs to go away. Like, it went away after In Space, since Bulk and Skull were at least treated competently. And we had better humor since Lost Galaxy to RPM. But I swear, this sort of pie-in-the-face humor just needs to stop. It's certainly an improvement from Ninja Steel, where we had like the same sort of humor with Victor and Monty, and at least Monty had like some stupid-ass fart jokes for some episodes. But like Ben and Betty, they mean well, but at the same time, They need to mean well even more and try to be more competent instead of being goofy little clowns.
So some villains were like a joke. That's what you're implying.
Yeah, Ben and Betty were humorous characters, which isn't a bad thing, but I just wish their humor was a bit better.
Mm-hmm. The
Like,
comic reliefs that
yeah,
weren't actually very comical.
like their comic humor is just so outdated. Can we at least have better jokes for them? Like, at least try to okay, when they were using the, I believe there were tasers to stop the Tronic when the Red Ranger was frozen after seeing a dog because cats are afraid of dogs and the cheetah is a cat. Because the Beast Morpher Rangers have weaknesses. Red Ranger can't be near dogs. Blue Ranger overheats. Yellow Ranger loses energy because of a result of the um, Venjix virus, or Evox virus rather, affecting the morphing grid for those three. Which is weird at first, but then I remember that Go Busters had the Red Ranger, Red Buster, afraid of chickens. So, pick your poison.
Yeah.
But that being said, what about the pros of the season? Well, I at least find it a lot more engaging than most of the Neo Saban era, which just felt super vanilla, super wasted potential. While Dino Charge was decent, obviously, Ninja Steel is just super garbage. Like, the story was more engaging in a lot of ways, more serialized, a lot more happens, and they try to take much advantage of the 22 episode limit that both seasons have, and it works quite well, honestly, what they could do. Another aspect that I like is the aesthetics of the season. These suits just look so nice. I love the chrome visors. I love the combination of both mechanical themed and animal themed suit elements, making the best of both worlds. And I love the weapons, so we got for both the US as well as the ones that originally came from the Go Busters Japanese source footage. I love the Zords a lot. It's so cool that they can each become a vehicle, then they can turn into an animal or bug for gold and silver. And it's also nice that we get robot modes for red and gold's Zords before they even become a Megazord, with blue and yellow becoming parts of the Red Racer to make the Beast X Megazord, and the Silver Zord goes along with the Gold Wrecker Zord to make the Striker Megazord. And it's even before they make an Ultra Zord, when of course the Lion becomes the individual robot of its own, as well as become part of the Beast X King Megazord and Ultra Zord. Music's pretty decent as well. And it's not perfect compared to what we get from other seasons, but at least seems a bit more exciting than most of the Neo Saban music. Even the theme song is less reliant on Go Go Power Rangers, which is nice, although it is a little short. So, overall, I'd say that Power Rangers Beast Morphers is not a perfect season. There are some things that I would like to see be better, but that being said, it's an improvement compared to most of the Neo Saban era, and while it may not be as good as something like In Space, Time Force, the first three Disney era seasons, Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, and SPD, and RPM, the last one from Disney, I think it's still a worthwhile addition to any Power Rangers fans' collections of seasons that they like. Though I will say that I hope Dino Fury will be even better than what we get, because while the adaptation choice may not be something that I would choose right away, I do understand why Hasbro would go with it though. But I'm more interested in seeing what they can do with the story, because the aesthetics may not be my thing, but I can only hope that what we get for this plot is interesting. Maybe even more so than Beast Morphers, but we'll see. So overall, I give Beast Morphers a solid 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Venom movie. Now, for those unaware, Venom Let There Be Carnage was supposed to be released this month. However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and Sony refusing to let their movies play in theaters until COVID has been safe, or unless all theaters have been open, we can't get Venom 2. So instead, we're going to be talking about Venom 1. Now, the first Venom movie was a blast when we first saw it. It was great to see a character that wasn't Spider-Man get the spotlight, while still being in a sort of similar universe. But 2 years later, is it as good as it was for the first time? What do you guys think?
I do believe it's still as fresh as the first time, but of course, I wasn't a big fan of the movie. I still think it's quite entertaining, because that's basically the
Yeah.
purpose of the movie itself to introduce this character and also be super entertaining, which it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining movie, but as much as I love Venom, I gotta say that it's, just a generic superhero movie. Well, superhero movie, as we can say that. It's like,
Sort of, yeah,
It's barely.
anti-hero,
Yeah, it's like
villain.
anti-hero. Yeah, comic book movie.
a popcorn
Comic book.
movie that
Yeah.
has an anti-hero, banter
Yeah, it's
with
like, well,
unassuming character.
and well, my opinion feels generic. It's like, it's nothing memorable. It's enjoyable, yeah, of course, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It's like, doesn't lift something for, well, just the last scene with Carnage, but nothing
Yeah.
else. It's like,
Okay,
it's entertaining.
post credit.
I will say
Yeah,
this.
it's like, mhm. Yeah.
Like, I will say this, that the interactions between the symbiotes and Eddie Brock are great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a modern Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because
Yeah, they had a good dynamic.
Yeah.
Very good
Yeah.
one.
you get
That would save the movie.
like you get
Yeah.
you get Eddie Brock, who's this guy that feels like he doesn't want to be involved with this sort of stuff, especially after having something that was already making him happy, until he started to be obsessed with looking up the information of the company that he was interviewing.
Mhm. Yeah.
He was a reporter. However, when he started to ask people questions about the company that he's been interviewing, he loses his job, and that upsets his fiance, wife, girlfriend,
Everything.
everything to his heart. Of course, it's something we've seen before in other films. Although it is interesting how he went from a nice neighborhood, nice house, everything, to living in a shitty apartment. Another aspect of San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Yeah, it was a quite interesting transition. But I always felt it forced the rupture of the relationship. I don't know why. But later on, I liked their interactions. It felt like it had
Yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah. I will say, Eddie going straight to the apartment did feel a little too soon. Maybe it's just me, but I think
Yeah.
a few more minutes could have been, for the opening, would have worked better. Though it does feel fairly condensed when you see it. I even felt that way when I first saw the movie in theaters.
Yeah, I totally agree. But nevertheless, design of Venom, incredible.
Yeah.
I think the CGI is mostly very good.
But even before we got to Venom, I was excited to see how he'd get to the symbiote. Like, the fact that he wanted to get some money out of experimenting with a company that he went after at first in his interview was just, like, it got me curious because you didn't know how he was going to meet up with Venom. And then, as it turns out, he gets himself in trouble. Like, during a time when they were looking for a good host for the symbiote, most of the hosts just died.
Yeah, they all die, right?
Yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't some sort of
Not even
chosen
one
one sort of
survived.
thing. It wasn't like he was made specifically for the symbiote. It was just this guy just so happened to be better fit for the symbiote, whereas everyone else, they weren't fit for it.
Mm-hmm. And the ending, of course, is this spectacle full of visual effects,
Yeah.
fights.
Getting too soon to the ending, aren't you?
No, I mean that's the third act, which is basically still the same format as MCU movies.
The big fight
Yeah.
with the
Yeah. So I think the best part it's basically, or at least the one with just this first two acts,
It's the chemistry.
which established all this chemistry between the characters, and they actually accomplished to make them interesting.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
him basically meeting up with Venom was cool enough, but the fact that he started to realize that he has this weird, calling it some sort of virus or disease, or call it a parasite.
Oh, yeah.
Venom didn't like it, and I'm pretty sure Venom didn't like that I called him a parasite either, even though I forgot about the word, despite me seeing the movie recently before we record this damn episode. But yeah, the chemistry was great. It was more than just like two guys that acted different. Like it was, they were made for each other clearly, and the movie just played it off as the fact that Eddie Brock just seemed better fit as a human being compared to all the other tests.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of these test subjects were just pieces of shit that weren't fit, like mentally or physically. Whereas at least Eddie Brock, he was better fit for the body or the symbiote of Venom.
Yeah.
And of course,
And
seeing the fact that they try to take the symbiote away from Venom, and we getting to the reveal is just super cool. Like Eddie Brock gets injured badly. The guys that went after the symbiote realize that they're in trouble as the symbiote itself starts to manifest around Eddie Brock and turning him into Venom.
two.
Yeah, like you already mentioned that the design of Venom looks great, but it really does because like Spider-Man 3's Venom, as nostalgic as it is, it just felt more like as if Peter Parker was
Yeah, it doesn't hold
becoming
up.
Venom. Yeah, it just felt a little too small, a little
It's
too
too
scrawny.
slim.
It looked more like like Spider-Man was becoming Venom himself. Like he just got a mouth and more jagged eyes.
Mhm.
Whereas this felt more alien in comparison.
Yeah. Complete
Yeah,
beast.
more bulkier also. It's like
Yep.
he's imponent. Like he's not small guy. He's tall.
Nope.
As Batman said, he's tall.
Yeah, Justice, Batman. Well, obviously, this
Yeah,
movie is better
just-
than Justice, and I will say this: when I saw
Yeah.
Justice, as much as I regret mentioning it in theaters, there's like 2 to 3 groups of people there. Whereas
Yeah.
this movie, it was like when we saw it in the theaters, it was packed.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
everyone.
but well, the
Yeah, like Venom
Yeah.
as a movie everyone wanted to see, and it was great. Like there was no like upset nerds. It was just people that were happy to see another Marvel character. And regardless of my
Yeah.
thoughts on Marvel currently or the MCU, it was great to see people that were happy for this experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's great to see some positive energies and something that isn't the MCU. Like all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've been through stuff like 3 MCU films that I just didn't care about because it was just either you watched them and people would just give a shit about you if you did, or if you didn't, they'd hate you. Whereas here, like I was just happy to enjoy a movie of a Marvel character that I happen to like.
Yeah, because nobody's
Yeah.
going in there thinking we're about to watch a masterpiece. It's just, you know,
Yeah, we just go in,
a popcorn movie.
or we just go in and we
Yeah.
just like the film.
Well,
Like
well,
I miss
Yeah.
that so much about movies.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
man. That's why also, I don't know if this goes with the topic, but that's why I respect more the fan base for the Fast and Furious movies over the MCU ones, because they are actually more realistic, man. They know
Yeah.
that you're about to watch a piece of shit that it's super entertaining. They know that.
Maybe calling it a
But
piece of
they
shit's a
still
little
go
rough,
every time.
but like what I mean is that it just feels nice to have a movie that doesn't make you feel like you've been dictated by nerd culture to
Yeah.
hate the movie. I'd rather go in on my own and love a movie for what it is. If I don't like a
Exactly.
movie, then that sucks, but at least I got to see it without having a nerd culture site dictate my opinion. Of course, nerd culture websites try to go after Venom because of Sony.
They tried. But I mean, the movie was success financially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
fans loved it. Well, at least the fans that were willing to give non-MCU stuff a chance, because like it's going to be rare to not have Marvel stuff that's excluded from the MCU. It just feels like a rarity at this point. And honestly, after the shit,
correct.
after garbage like Dark Phoenix and New Mutants, it's nice that we have something that's
Oh.
more meaningful, like Venom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just miss that positive energy in general, especially now where we just feel secluded from the world, thanks to all the stuff that's been going on in recent years. Thanks, guy that ate the bat soup. And
That guy. That fucking guy.
yep. But anyways,
Funny.
like Venom itself isn't a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. Like it's not going to be in my top 10 anytime soon, but I got to value it for at least being worthwhile as a movie on its own. It's not immediately trying to set up sequels. I mean, it is, but not to the same extent as most cinematic universes do. The main point is just to be a satisfying Venom movie with satisfying characters to be interested in. And hey, it was also great to see another symbiote show up in the form of Riot, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yep.
that name in this year that word in this year may seem a little harsh to think about, but back in 2018, like he was the next best thing to a Carnage. I was hoping that we'd get to see Carnage in some capacity, but only in the extended cut or the Blu-ray version. I
Yeah, we
think.
are gonna get it for a sequel with Woody
Yeah,
Harrelson.
it was also
Yeah.
nice to see a sneak peek to Spider Verse, and the way they did it was just pretty clever, where it just happens at the credits, and it says, "Meanwhile, in another universe."
Oh
You
yeah.
get to see Miles Morales trying to escape from the corpse of Peter Parker while running into stuff in
Yeah,
New
yeah.
York.
I remember that.
Like most of the people were gone by that point when the movie was over, but me and my brother
Yeah, and
were
also,
happy to see the scene.
yeah, and also there's people that, well, my theater, there was people that were confused. He says, "What is this?"
Yeah,
Really?
they might either say
there was
stuff
a kid
like,
that knew nothing about that movie. It's like, hey, what? I'm
yeah,
seeing right now.
the reactions were probably either stuff like, "Oh my god, another Spider-Man movie, sweet," or they say like, "Oh, it's a cartoon." Like again, I love that energy of Venom, where
Yeah,
it just feels rewarding that we get a scene from a movie that's coming up, and it's not like an MCU post-credit scene where you just sit there and think, "Oh my god, I'm so excited to see a scene that teases another movie that's just a MacGuffin, and I'm going to forget about it in a few months." It's a scene where I go, "Oh my god, it's a different movie," and it's also got something that I haven't seen yet from people posting about Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Spider Verse is gonna be a huge.
Man, it just makes me miss 2018 quite a bit. I mean, 2018 was just a honestly pretty good year, especially in the latter half where stuff just felt more like it was in my control and it felt like nothing could go wrong.
Yeah.
yeah,
Me too.
I miss 2018 quite a bit.
I mean, at least the experiences I had on cinema 2018 were all fantastic.
Yeah.
Cannot complain. Not even
So,
one.
Venom itself is not a perfect movie, as we mentioned, but I do enjoy the energy that it has, and I also love that it tried to be less of a film that was trying to set up this big ass universe and more so just, for the most part, be a story about a man and a symbiote.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10 because I do feel that the final part of the film, while great, does feel like it's been there, done that for most comic book stuff, especially the MCU, where we have the good guy take on a similar looking bad guy. Also got the Venom theme song as well, which I don't hate, but at the same time, I kind of get frustrated with how I should sing it because how am I supposed to sing that song?
Like that?
Yeah, like it just seems so weird. Like the way Eminem did it. Like the guy's just a beast when it comes to music. Though honestly,
Yeah.
like most people just hated it. I just think it's cool, but I prefer Without Me as well as the real Slim Shady.
Me too.
But that being said, what are your guys' hopes for Let There Be Carnage?
Oh, I'm excited to be honest.
Yeah.
I
We
think
all
it
know
can-
that Woody Harrelson would make a
Yes.
good world with the character, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. But like what are your hopes aside from Carnage?
I hope the characters stay like this with the same dynamic. I hope that they slowly try to connect it more with Spider-Man because it is inevitable. It will happen.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I just want to see a great portrayal for Carnage, just like they did with Venom. And hopefully, but I don't think it's the case, some more mature scenes, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are
close to
hoping it'd be
R-rated,
R-rated.
please.
Yeah, come on. This is
It'd
not
be so
for
cool.
kids. No.
No, it isn't.
Although Venom is a character that most people know about because Spider-Man fights against him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, if an Spider-Man appears in that universe, that I don't know how it's going to handle that. Well, you know, there are kids there, and they can, of course, control the situation about gore and violence. But if it's just Venom, do it that, man, because it's Venom. Venom don't, just make a punch and that's everything. No, he eats a fucking head, man, or
Exactly.
legs. Pancreas.
Yeah.
Tears him apart slowly. Pure torture.
Yeah, even in the ending of the film where he threatened the guy that was going to steal from the lady in the shop, turning the guy into this headless, armless, legless thing floating in the wind like a turd.
Look at turd.
Yeah.
In the wind. That was terrible. But
in terms of the one hope I have, dialogue, I'm gonna lie.
Like, it's goofy, but it made sense for someone like Venom. Like, it's cheesy in a way, but I can't help but at least have a smile on my face because it makes sense for someone like Venom.
Yeah.
Would it be fitting for someone like Thor? Take of TD. Or something like Joaquer.
Yeah.
But in terms of the hopes I have, I do at least want to see a more unique design for Carnage, because Carnage is designed differently from Venom. He's lankier than Venom. He's got a good mix of red and black on him, and he's also got specific ways of using his powers, which were similar to what Riot did in the movie, except they're more aggressive for Carnage, especially given the fact that he's a serial killer.
Yeah, he needs to be slimmer and very acrobatic, I think, and terrifying, also savage.
Yeah.
Those are main things I like to picture.
I wouldn't really like it if he was just a red Venom, because it's just a lazy ass palette swap. I mean, we're way past that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Another hope I do have for Venom Let There Be Carnage is that if they're going to try and connect to Spider-Man, I at least hope that the connections are at least meaningful, i.e. it's not just fan service crap that would appeal to the nerd culture sites just because Tom Holland's in it. Tom Holland, at this point in time, we already have our thoughts on him. We used to be excited for him, and now we're just questioning the fact that he's nothing more but just fangirl bait, honestly. People just care about him because he's cute looking, and that's it. And we're also annoyed by the fact that he relies so much on Iron Man, and I think now they're going to use friggin' Doctor Strange. So, having him be with Venom isn't a bad idea, but as much as I would prefer Andrew, that being said, I do see a bit of potential with Tom Holland being with Venom.
Yeah.
I just hope that the interactions are organic. They're not something stupid, like how most comic book nerds would go with a character meeting another character. Like, you know how Batman and Iron Man pictures depict them talking about their suits and what makes them better as millionaires?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more than that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It would be cool to at least see Holland try to depend on his powers instead of using stupid-ass Iron Man technology with Spider-Man colors on it.
Yeah.
And
he felt more natural to War than any of.
Yeah. There was still the Mr. Stark crap that was annoying, but at least he was a bit more natural in that film instead of Homecoming or Infinity War or Endgame or Far From Home. I just don't want the number one moment to either be his introduction in the airport battle, as crappy as the airport battle was, or the fact that he turned into dust, because those two moments being my favorite moments of the character is extremely lacking compared to Andrew and Toby, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can I just say that Homecoming was one of the worst experiences I had in a cinema.
Yeah, I could tell.
Because I just remember sitting next to this girl, laugh at every single cringe joke. Even when it wasn't a joke, she would laugh. And
Jesus, man, that's why I don't go to the MCU movies that much anymore.
Yeah, and the cinema was packed. I was just annoyed by everyone. The movie itself was good, and I had high expectations. I mean, I liked the Civil War version. So, yep, that's when it all fell off.
Yeah, and I remember on Twitter, people were always like people that weren't from Film Gops follows were all like, "OMG, this is the best Spider-Man movie ever." But like, not many people talk about it that
Uh,
much. Meaning they're more likely to talk about Toby and Andrew than that movie.
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that Holland needs to at least have the same sort of moments that Toby and Andrew had. Just make him good. But unfortunately, they want to make him look like he's fucking babyface instead of being someone that's more earnest with himself. So yeah,
Yeah.
one of the hopes I have for Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and the future of Sony stuff is that Venom, interacting with Spider-Man, has stuff going on beyond just OMG, you're that guy. And finally, we'll be talking about The Boys, which is a TV show that I have not seen, but the co-hosts have. Now, what do you guys think of The Boys in general?
Okay, you said co-host in plural. I didn't watch it either. So, Fred?
Well, what can I say about Voice? Well, Voice, fantastic show that, as always said, with everyone to ask me to explain what is the show about, it's like a kick on the balls to everyone. To everyone. Yeah, that's what I would say. Because,
Awesome.
all the characters that are present in this show are incredible. The character development, how they show their problems, and also that, they take a kind of mental illness or like this.
Yeah.
Just to don't go on deep spoilers because I don't want to say nothing about the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible also how the how the actors make the characters. Because
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's the character on the comic books. That character, blah, blah, blah. But when an actor portrayed, a character is like they put, as we mentioned with Joaquin Phoenix, it's like he put everything with this, this character, Joker.
Yeah.
And it's the same here. Carl Urban is amazing doing Butcher, William Butcher, and Anthony Starr as my favorite character, Homelander. Oh God,
Everyone says the same. Homelander, the best
Homelander is the
fucking
one that's
character.
the sort of knockoff-esque Superman, right?
yeah,
Sort of,
he's
yeah.
he's like it's like evil Superman in Justice, kind of that, but worse.
Yeah.
Worse,
So by that you mean like
100%.
he's less tyrannical and more of an asshole?
More than that. Yeah,
He's like perverted, let's say.
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. He has a lot of things in his mind, and one thing that I love about this character is like he's present, as the strongest man, as the strongest one, the perfect, you know, like Superman. He's the perfect superhero or whatever, but
Yeah.
but inside his mind, he's the weakest because a lot of people take of advantage, that need of him of, to be in love with the people or someone else. He needs that attention. He needs that attention, and you don't want to you don't want to meet him when he's angry, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, what can I say about the other characters? Quick Maeve is like kind of Wonder Woman. Yeah, she's doing a great work. And all the well, let's talk about in general the first and the second season. Yeah, she's a good character. I have so many things that I could say is like I'm not, you know, don't convince me, but it works. It works on many occasions. If you see the show, you will understand many things about well, I'm referring to more with the second season, but it's understandable in a way.
Yeah.
Then we have another, the Deep. It's a kind of Aquaman, Well,
So you're saying
here's
that because they look too similar. But as far as
yeah,
I can remember,
like
with this Homelander guy, he didn't look exactly like Superman, aside from the somewhat similar colors. How much did the Wonder Woman-esque character and the Aquaman-esque character copy from the looks of those guys?
yeah.
Did it
Well,
like copy?
what?
Did it like how much does it like physically mannerism? Does it copy Superman?
Like, not just that, but mostly look-wise. Like, how similar are they?
Yeah, yeah, that is.
Well, if you ask me, and in my opinion, they are just physically bad. How they act, of course not. If you refer to
Yeah,
that, it's like
So,
no, they are all the opposite that the character is supposed to show.
this Homelander guy is less of a guy that's learning how to be a hero. He's more of um, a spoiled, rotten guy in a way. And the Wonder Woman-esque
Well,
character is like less Wonder Woman and more Black Widow, is what you're saying?
no, no, no. Well, no. Well, they all have their own, their own, act to way. It's like they're different from the Wonder Woman or Superman. It's like they have their own personality. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
yeah,
Because it's a kind of a satire of these characters. It's like they are not going to act like them. But one thing that I have to say is like they act like superhero, but just on cameras. When the cameras are off, they are a cunt, as in the
like
In the lightest sense of a term?
yeah. When the lights return, oh man, you
Yeah,
better not mess
So
with
it's
me.
pretty much like making fun of how people would not pay attention to the way the characters or the actors act off screen. So, thinking of an example, is it sort of like how like most actors that have had it with being in superhero roles just don't act the same as they do on screen?
Yeah,
yeah, it could be
like that.
comparable with that. With that, yeah,
Oh man.
And also with actors, there are actors that maybe in cameras they are the superheroes, but backstage they are just
The worst of ever?
assholes.
Like the worst it's ever been?
Kind of that, yeah.
Oh
but
man.
they are all, let's say, logically humane. Like they all stay in terms of three-dimensional beings. Like they are not just a satire. They are also their
Yeah,
own conscience, right?
yeah, of course. The series try to make them more a human being, as you said,
Mhm.
because on the comic books, well, they are way different, very way different than the show, because uh, the adaptation of something, is there are suffer many changes, but is it for I guess it's for good because you can show many things on television,
Yeah.
but they're doing everything everything good. Yeah,
Who else
that's
is a character in the show itself?
that's for true. What?
Who else is in the show in terms of characters?
Yeah, the characters are incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
But
is that all we
like,
have? Like, isn't there
is
like
there
other
any
characters?
another protagonist worth mentioning?
well. As you know, there's the boys. There's Huey. There is, let's say that he's the principal character in a way.
Okay.
Then we have Frenchie. He is a friend of Willem Butcher. Then Mother Milk. That's his name. His name is Mother
Wow.
Milk.
Mother Milk.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. And they they were a kind of special team that manage those problems with the suits.
Hmm.
But in the past, now they are like recover again for this new problem that is going to happen, and they are trying to solve this
Yeah.
because uh, you know, it's like I don't want to say nothing, man. I try not to say something that ruins the show because since the first episode, and you can, it's like there's big bombs on the first episode. It's like they
Already the
threw
first
everything.
episode?
Really?
Yeah, it's like they threw everything there because it was kind of a risk, maybe to answer
It was like a
to the people.
pilot, so
Yeah, yeah, because if people wouldn't like this kind of mature content, well, maybe well, well, for me it's understandable that they act like 18 plus show. But yeah, it's incredible, and there's strong things that the show takes, about sexual sexualization,
sexual
more
harassment,
yeah,
sexual
sexual
abuse.
harassment, yeah, all the things, and also with religion. Oof, bro. There's an episode exclusive that there is no action. There's just dialogues, and it's incredible. All the all that feelings in many episodes is like, okay, let's not let's try to do this thing shit, because if the bad guys discover us, everything is done. It's like,
Really?
because it's kind of damn, how can I explain that without spoilers? But well, you understand me. It's like there's a group of people that don't have powers versus the Seven. There is this group of superheroes.
United Seven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, United Seven.
Yeah, I wonder what that's a reference to.
They are under the control of both, which is this kind of I would like to say this kind of Disney that manage everything. Okay, this hero is going to go to Florida. This go to New York. This go to different
like a
different
superhero corporation, let's say. Like they manage everything. Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are in that group. Politicians and other kind of important people under the globe that know many things, but as corporation have well, those kind of evil corporations. Yeah.
Yeah.
With
some
incredible.
Suspicious intention.
Yeah, of course, behind. Yeah, that's.
But something that I usually adore from shows are their direction. Each episode trying something new, either artistically or narrative. Yeah, from their narrative. So like, does it take risks from those sides, like direction?
Yeah, of course they do, because as I told you, they take strong situations that it's like, okay, you can see a movie with Deadpool, cut heads and everything, but it's fun. It's like they trying to to show you as a funny thing, but here it's something different, because they put you in a situation. Yeah, it's like they put you in a situation that you said, really? No, I'm not gonna. It's like you are with no words. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
I just
can't
wait
pretty much
to
calling out some stuff that would normally be shrugged off, especially in painful situations.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's something. There's a special situation that I don't want to mention, but it was wow, it was something unbelievable.
I mean, if we sorry, go on.
Yep. No, just
it's been twice that superheroes have been placed more grotesque, realistic situation that it's Watchmen and Batman v Super. At least for me, those are the two situations where you actually see superheroes in a world that can be much more dark due to them.
What about
So
X-Men?
finally seeing like a show that completely develops that into something bigger and larger, probably more extended in
it's like
in their
something
narrative.
True. I suppose, though, you forgot about the X-Men.
Oh, the X-Men too. The thing with X-Men is that uh, it. I mean, it's a bit outdated now.
I mean, in some ways, yeah, though maybe it just has to do with the fact that they're in different time periods, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, what X-Men did on its time was fantastic. But let's say now with this complex modern world, with media, with technology, I think the only two that sort of had that view were the ones I mentioned.
Can the same,
But
say,
X-Men,
can the same be said
X-Men
for
was
Logan?
well, Logan was more of a Western.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's a kind
dystopian
of
Western, I suppose.
combination, of these major graphic novels you mentioned.
Yeah.
And it works. Well, for me, it works completely because, as you said, you're happy that finally there's a show for mature audience. It's like you don't have to do a show for PG-13 or nothing of that bullshit. Because it's like we have to make the next step with superheroes trying to tell different stories, different situation, characters. Well,
yeah.
If you ask me, well, for me, Homelander is one of the new, kind of this new, this new, he's on the group of great villains. You ask me.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's some of the best, let's say.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I think we went to like most of the pros of The Boys. What are some cons that you have with either season?
Well, what I can say is that there are many episodes that are kind of slow, but take their time to tell something. But sometimes it doesn't work, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But well, what can you say about? Well, there are many characters that are supposed to be like important, but then they just mention them and never appear again. Yeah, in next episodes or just many minutes. But I oh, what else? Something bad or what to say? The episodes, well, the number of episodes are too short, man. It's like just 8 episodes are not enough. Well, in my opinion, they're not enough.
I think it's sort of like how they usually focus on a budget, and because The Boys isn't as big of a budget as most shows, it at least has to be wise with its budget.
It's all about budget, I guess. And also, you understand that this is not a Hollywood movie. That the special effects sometimes are not the best, but it works. But sometimes it has good moments with the special effects.
Would you say it's better or worse than the CW visuals?
No, of course no, man. No, those are
can't be that bad. It's impossible to be that
bad.
No, man. No. Well, what else? Well, there are other characters that appear on the next episodes that will help. It could help our team. Or maybe add to the other team, which is the 7. There's a lot of there's kind of surprises about many superheroes that are going to appear. Which is just funny, all the background history about the actors portraying these characters. But well, you will understand when you see it.
I suppose.
But but well,
One thing that's worth
hmm
mentioning is that if there was something that had to be mentioned with the way DCEU fans reacted to it, like the ones that are mostly Snyder Cut supporters, I believe there was an interview that mentioned
oh,
how the people compared the MCU to the DCEU, saying that the MCU was more grounded than the DCEU. Now, I wish I got the article for it, but I think that was a quote that was mentioned. What do you think about that?
I believe
well,
whoever said that is an ignorant. Because if you just sit down and watch them, you can tell so easily that one is like a parallel world. Like it
yeah,
doesn't work, not even systematically inside the universe. So I don't know. I don't even know who said that, but it's pretty ignorant.
but well,
Yeah,
the show also makes a reference about about many things that happen with the DCU or also with the MCU. There's a a mention about a movie with a beautiful soundtrack. You know, all the heroes are there. Wait, wow, wow, this is good. Why not making a team? Yes, let's call us the Seven, and then Hans Zimmer music, everything dark, and the Seven, something like that. You know, well, that's satire about the Snyder Cut movement, and also with Marvel movies
hmm
with with girls to get it done. There's a special scene that they are trying to to copy that is in Endgame with the
Yeah,
girls all getting together and
the
fight.
girl power scene where the camera
Yeah,
goes round and you see all woman
yeah.
hero.
yeah.
Now here is the real girl power. That's what I'm saying.
So I think that's what Benny was tweeting about.
especially, yeah, especially in the second season. That's my
Nice.
advice.
Nice.
I swore that was what Benny was tweeting about on Twitter. For those that don't know, we call Benny, or we call IGDCE or Ben Batterson as Benny because that's just a nickname I came up with. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can understand what you're meaning with that. So uh, I probably will give the boys a shot at some point. Of course, I got a lot of stuff that I need to focus on in terms of schoolwork and other stuff that I might need to look out for. But I guess it
Me
wouldn't hurt to
too.
give the boys a shot.
So you would give it a
Oh,
shot?
Yeah, at some point. Maybe not soon because there are things I want to focus on, but in terms of
Yeah,
real
sure.
world stuff. But
yeah,
wouldn't hurt.
yeah. It would be good that you can take an opportunity to this show that well, if you don't like, well, it's understandable because it's not for everybody. Well, I said because if you put that to 40
The thing
years
is, I
old
just feel it's
man,
firstly like
old
burnt out with
man,
superhero stuff.
so, yeah,
Hmm.
It's
So
just
yeah, I think that's very good. Fred,
yep.
just say a score. How
Or
much?
yesterday was on Friday night was
Yeah.
the
yeah.
last episode of the season 2,
Hmm.
and well, with that finale, I will I would put
Go on.
uh,
You're
a
saying
nine, a nine,
A
a
nine?
nine.
9 out
a
of
nine
10?
out
Yeah,
of
a nine.
10.
9 out of 10. Yeah.
That's
I
personally a
think.
little low since you were like quite happy with how it turned out. Honestly, thinking about it, the boys sort of reminds me of Spaceballs in terms of something that's meant to be a parody yet looks more official. But we'll see with the
Yeah.
boys. Like we'll see with the boys, it just seems more like something that we've seen before. Like it's just how people would look at the comic book stuff in general. which is why when some people mention it's not they didn't really recommend it, I just thought okay. Like from when I first saw it, but I feel that whereas okay, we're gonna start that part again because certain people were starting to mess up my dialogue. I kind of get the feeling
Yeah,
that The Boys is reminiscent of Spaceballs in a way because it's a parody of something, yet it looks professional and official at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like, I kind of feel that I won't enjoy The Boys as much as I do Spaceballs because I think with The Boys, from the small bits that I've seen of it in terms of what people have mentioned on Twitter, it just feels like something I've seen before in terms of like how people work on comic book stuff, except it's a TV show. Whereas Spaceballs sort of feels like a clever parody of Star Wars, and the only clever parody of Star Wars I can think of, where it pokes fun of how exploitable it was. It pokes fun of the characters without being too on the nose. And
Yeah, I think it's a valid opinion.
Yeah.
maybe it's just me though, because like I'm pretty sure that the people that talk about The Boys probably won't get what I mean, since they're not likely to understand why I laughed at stuff like Dark Helmet or Lone Star or Barf and all the other characters from Spaceballs, because it just feels more like something I would expect from a parody, whereas The Boys just feels reminiscent of what I've experienced with seeing nerd culture websites view certain franchises, especially Superman,
Mm.
and of course, the way people compared Homelander to Superman just seems a little weird because like they realize that that this Homelander guy is a jackass, right?
Yeah.
People are stupid. Whoever compares them, like you must be missing some brain cells.
Like I know you guys understand it, especially Fred as he reviewed the show.
No, I think Fred can agree, and he watched the show.
Well,
Yeah, like this
well,
so-called like perverted guy just can't be on the same level of what we saw with Henry Cavill's Superman. But I will say that I wouldn't expect that too much with Christopher Reeve because his sort of Superman is more like to get away with sort of stuff. Like, you know, he would get away with touching a woman or looking through their underwear, whereas Henry Cavill, who just wants to do the right thing, gets shat on by normies.
Normies, yeah.
And that pretty much sums up today's episode. I want to thank you all for joining me for today's recording, fellas.
Yeah, man. It's always a pleasure.
always a pleasure.
Unfortunately,
Don't forget to see
Evie
the
Dog
balls.
is not with us at this moment, but hopefully next time. It's
Shit,
just, yeah, it just feels a little lackluster having three guys. But hey, maybe the next episode we might have not just Evie Dog, but another guest show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wasn't there gonna be like a friend of yours for The Boys?
no, it's another topic that they decided to bring up.
Oh, so they decided to change the subject.
Yeah,
For the
more on
future.
that for the next episode. And speaking of, I hope to see you next time, viewers. Take care.